Hey guys, Jay Helmsing here. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to review a gun that I just purchased that just hit the market and that I wasn't really planning on purchasing, but it kind of filled a specific role for me, so I'll get more into that in just a moment. The gun is going to be the new Glock 45, and I don't mean 45 as in the Glock 21 that shoots 45 or the Glock 30 that also shoots 45 ACP. I mean Glock number 45. So we'll get into this in just a moment. I'll unbox this, but I'll kind of tell you first why I bought this gun. So I have been on the fence since the 19X came out, mainly because I didn't really see the purpose in it. So I have a Glock 17 Gen 5, I have a Glock 19 Gen 5, and Project One Gun has shown me that I can do pretty much everything that I need to with my Glock 19. So if I wanted to run a 17 round magazine, I could just put it in my Glock 19 if I wanted to. I really didn't feel the need for the extra grip length there. Also, a couple other things I didn't really care for with the 19X being, you know, the plug, the maritime spring cups and whatnot in there. Just really didn't care for them. So nothing, you know, against them necessarily, but something that I just really didn't ever feel the need for. Also don't like that it didn't have the flared mag well. It's got the little lip in front. Can't use the Gen 5 magazines, so on and so forth. So even though I picked up the Glock 19X many times, probably over a dozen times, and came very, very close to purchasing it, I never bit that bullet and I never bought the gun because I just didn't really see a need for it. So as you guys may know, very recently, within the last probably week or so, there was leaked information that the 45 was going to come out, and in very short order, Glock started sending out the Glock 45. Well, I happened to go to my local gun shop today, and they happened to get two of these in, and you know, I was riding the fence for so long about the 19X, I thought, well, let me just pick this up and see what all this fanfare is about, because a lot of people really seem to like the 19X, and everyone was talking smack about it when it first came out. So there must be something good about it, okay? So we'll do a real quick unboxing here. Here we go with the Glock 45. I'll just kind of show you what you have there. Obviously the Glock 45, if you have not seen it, it's basically just a Glock 19X with front serrations, the black coloring, and a flared mag well, but it also does not have the grip cutout like you see on the Gen 5s. Other than that, it's pretty much Gen 5 area, okay? Everything else is going to be the same. We'll get more into that in just a few moments. Also in the box you have your Glock 17 length back straps as per normal, and you have two additional magazines, your mandatory lock, your brush, all that kind of Glock stuff. There's really nothing new, innovative, crazy about the packaging or anything you're going to see here, so I'm just not even going to go into it, okay? Let's take a look at this gun, all right? So the Glock 45, these are made in Austria, so they don't have any US versions that I've seen. So these are Austrian guns, not that it really matters, but you have those that'll say the Austrian guns may be a little bit better, tolerances may be a little bit better, something like that. Just so you know, it's got a big Austria stamped in the side of it here. Obviously, as you see, full-length grip here, the Glock 17 style grip, and it's got the 19 size slide here. The one that I have here has the stock junky plastic sights. The basic sights you get on any Glock. Not a big fan of these sights, as you guys may know from my other videos, but that's neither here nor there. These will be replaced at some point with the Ameriglow Bold sights or something very similar to those, because I really like them on my Glock 19. So that's kind of where I'm going with that, okay? The finish here is in DLC, so it's the near diamond-like coating. However, it's a little bit more of a matte color, and I kind of mentioned that I've noticed that Glock is doing this more of a subdued color, maybe a little bit less glare, a little bit less glossy than some of the first NDLC slides that came out. Those were more of a shiny colored. This has almost a frosty look to it, so it does appear that they have changed their batch a little bit on that. It's got the bevel in the front, just like any of the newer, you know, Gen 5 Glocks. And just FYI, it's also got the bevel here on the frame. I know some people lost their marbles when they noticed that that was not, you know, did not match the beveling that they had on the slide there. So there you go. It's on the frame as well. Other than that, you know, I really don't have anything really innovative to tell you. It's got the front slide serrations here, which are pretty much the same thing that's on the rear. I don't use these unless I'm dry firing. So if I'm dry firing, I'll use those to really quickly do kind of a half rack on the slide here, reset the sear and everything and the trigger. But that's pretty much all I use it for. I kind of think press checking is I've never found a reason to do it, okay? So I guess I'll just end it at that. Also, I find that on a lot of these guns, there's a little gap right here. Obviously on these, you can feel the extractor pushed out just a little bit, but there's a little bit of a window here, so instead of fiddling around with, you know, half cocking the slide, if you shine a little light in there, you can generally see your brass. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of press checking, so there's that. But hey, you know, why not have them on there? They look kind of cool. You know, no reason not to have them on there, right? Other than that, everything else is just a mixture of Glock 19 and Glock 17 stuff. The one thing I am going to talk about in this is that I did see in some literature that it mentioned that this gun, the Glock 45, is supposed to have a slightly better trigger than the Gen 5s. Now, I've only seen it in one place, and I don't exactly know where that came from. As far as I can tell, not really, okay? It feels just like any other Gen 5, so you know, take that for what it's worth. I've also heard in the rumor mill out there that for some reason some people seem to think that the 19X has less recoil than the Glock 17. Again, I don't really know where that came from. I guess I kind of understand the, you know, the mass and the inertia and that sort of thing with the 17 slide, but I'm just not that well tuned to notice a big difference between this and the full-size Glock 17 slide as far as recoil management or, you know, return to target or anything really. So pretty much one and the same, I guess. I don't really see where that's going either. Something else some people often claim is that with these guns you can draw them faster because there is a slightly shorter slide here. So, you know, with a full-length grip like you'd have on the SIG, you know, P320 carry models or the FNS 9 or anything like that, that obviously you should be able theoretically to draw it faster and get it on target faster. Again, we're talking like a 1/4 inch or something here, so I don't know how many milliseconds this would come out of a holster faster than a Glock 17 would or a Glock 34 would, but probably not worth talking about. Just it's not going to make that much of a difference, so especially for us mortals, right? So I'm just going to kind of throw my 2 cents in there. There's really nothing totally groundbreaking about this, but overall as a package it does work very well. So I'll kind of get into that more in just a few moments. So let me show you this trigger because that's really one of the only things that you know, I guess is worth mentioning. Before I do that, I will tell you that the same terrible coating that is on the Gen 5s as far as this slide release or slide stop is on this. So you can plan on these turning to a chrome color in very short order. Glock, whatever you're doing to this to coat it, it's not working, okay? It doesn't bother me because I beat my guns up one side and down the other, but it's going to wear off, okay? And it just kind of cheapens the whole package when that starts getting worn down. So if you can put a better coating on that, that'd be super, okay? Other than that, let's check out this trigger. So it's been checked clear before, but I'll make sure again. This is going to be your typical Gen 5 stuff all day. I'll kind of try to flip this here and hold it at an awkward angle so you guys can see. Take up is very, very light, so there's not all that crunchiness or anything like you have in some triggers. It's going to go right back to a wall, and then you got just a little bit of mush, and then it's going to break, and you hear that nice clean break that you have there. So then we're going to come from reset. And it resets just the same as all the other Glocks that I've fired, and then you can kind of ride it back on that wall and again break through. I'm a really big fan of the Glock trigger. I know it's mostly stamped steel and rubbish in here as far as you know, comparing this to some other guns and the things that the materials that they're made out of, but I seem to shoot these really, really well, and I think it's mostly because they're pretty predictable triggers. There's nothing fantastic about them by any means, but they always break in the same area. They always break at the same degree out. There's really not a whole lot of guessing or anything involved there. So just for what it's worth, this trigger works really, really, really well for me, and it doesn't really feel like it should necessarily. But as far as a Glock trigger goes, this is about the best out-of-the-box Glock stock trigger that I've ever felt. But the same could be said for pretty much any Gen 5 Glock trigger. They're just really nice out of the box for stock Glock triggers. Okay, with that said, talking about the trigger still, it is the same old Gen 5 shoe, so you still have this little dingus thing here, this little trigger safety, and it does not set flush, so it is still going to be protruding a little bit for those of you that hate that. That has not been fixed or corrected. Okay, let's get a little bit further down where things start changing. We have the cutout being absent on this model, so if you look in there, it's got a nice bevel in the front. Try to get this in some light so maybe you guys can see that, but I may not have very much luck. Just take it for what it's worth. It's beveled all the way around, so that should help, I guess, with magazine feeding. The biggest problem that I have sometimes with that cutout is not because I feel it. I've never felt it in my hand, and I've seen the plugs that some people put in there to cover that up. I've never ever felt it in my hand. That's with a 17 or a 19, just the way I grip. I don't put a lot of pressure on my pinky area, and I'm not really pulling it in that manner anyway, so it doesn't bother me. I'm not one that the cutout has ever bothered, but I have noticed that under fast reloads, sometimes you have like a bullet sticking out here, your cartridge and your bullet, the nose of the bullet would be right here, and sometimes if I get sloppy, the nose of that bullet would go right into that recess, and I would have a bobble for a minute or two until I could force it up in there. It shouldn't be a problem with this because obviously that cutout is gone. Now what you give up in that process is you do lose some real estate to grab this out. Now Glocks do have this cutout in the back, and that is still there on this model, so you can strip if you need to. If you have a Type 3 malfunction, you should just be able to strip that mag out if you need to, but you don't have the little scallop in the front, so you are losing some real estate for that type of malfunction. Will it matter? I don't know. I've trained those malfunctions multiple times on Glocks, but as far as real life firing, I've never had one on a Glock, so I'm either really lucky or, I just have, not had to see that sort of an issue, or I don't fire enough. I don't know. But as far as a Type 3 malfunction, I typically don't have those. With Glocks, they generally just have like a stovepipe or something like that, which is easily fixed by your normal tap rack procedure. Nothing crazy there, okay? So take it for what it's worth. I don't think it's going to be a deal breaker for anybody, but that is the one drawback of having this, filled in. And again, the plus trade-off is probably going to be faster mag changes, okay? So that's pretty much it. I'll break it down for you guys really quickly. And show you the insides. Now, on the box, it says it's still a 5.5 pound trigger, 5.5 pound connector. Nothing different in here. This is still a dot connector, so you can still see the dot on there. If there is some change, maybe the spring or something, the return spring, I don't know. There might be a small change in here, but there's nothing drastic, okay? It looks just like all the other Gen 5 Glocks. Nothing has been reshaped. Nothing seems unique to this Glock 45 as far as the trigger area is concerned. So again, I don't know where that literature came from that the trigger is better than a Gen 5. If it is, it's marginal because I can't really tell the difference with it, okay? So there is that. Let's do a real quick comparison to get it slapped back together here. We'll compare that with Project One gun that I am carrying because this is what I carry, what I've been using. So we'll get that cleared out. This is your run-of-the-mill Gen 5 Glock 19, which has served me perfectly well, and I've never felt like I needed more leverage or anything, although coming from a holster, especially concealed position, is much easier with a longer handle to make a grip on, because you're probably, if you don't practice it a lot, are going to have a pretty sloppy purchase just coming out of a concealed position, even if you are a pretty trained individual. I've been known to have some pretty sloppy grips out of the holster, especially if it's in a concealed position. So this should help with that as far as the Glock 45 or the Glock 19X is concerned. That longer handle may give you a little more wiggle room there. Other than that, I don't really lose any leverage. I've got fairly big mitts, and I can easily fit my entire hand on here. It just seems to work okay for me. So size comparison will show you Glock 19 in the front, Glock 45 in the rear. Once I get these lined up, you're looking at an identical slide. Everything's identical here. The bevel cut's identical. Everything. You might see the little bit of the difference I was talking about in the finish. The one in the front here having just a little more glare, a little more gloss than we get on the newer models. And there you have the bottom. Of course, the magazines, these would both stick out just a little bit further, but you can see there, we're talking, you know, maybe a 1/4 inch or so difference between the two of them. Nothing really to talk about, so to speak. You do have the 19 hump back here, so that starts a little bit earlier in your palm than the 17 does. So you got a little more of a flat run up, which may help with some people and the way it fits in their hand. I could grip both of these fairly easily. I don't really have specific preference or anything like that. Obviously, you see the cutout there that is absent on this Glock 45. But again, the way I grip, I typically grip like this, and if you see the cutout, it's right in that kind of crevice there in my finger, and I don't have any issue. I can't feel that at all. So again, that's just me. That's my own grip style, but that's, you know, not a make or break for me at all. And this is going to be kind of wacky because it's a 17 mag. But I could run it this way if I wanted the extra capacity, no problem. It's what a lot of people did in the military when they carried the Glock 19. And I have that extra little scallop there to really get a purchase and strip, even if I'm using the Glock 19 mag. So again, something to be said about that. As far as the trigger, and again, this has been fired extensively, probably almost a little over 5,000 rounds at this point has been through this gun. But same, you know, really nice take up in this, and then it's going to come back to that same wall and pretty much break through. Now this trigger did start getting a little more notchy as I put rounds through it, which is kind of bizarre. It didn't seem to really break in. It just kind of almost got a little more gritty as time went on, but it's really not a lot different. I wouldn't say that I could shoot the 45 inherently better than I can the regular old 19. So you know, just my findings. Your mileage may differ, who knows. So that's pretty much it, guys. So again, the Glock 45, that's it, unboxing. You know, my impression of it, it's a Glock 19 on a Glock 17 frame. If you like that, if you like a Glock 19 and you think you might want something a little more well done, if you're going to carry, you know, the full-size magazines and whatnot, this is not going to be a bad option. Now, as far as it being like something demanded from police departments, I don't know. I'm obviously a police officer, and I've never really felt the need to go with a compact slide. There's plenty of room on my duty belt. I'm carrying outside the waistband anyway. I like to have a longer sight radius, so I don't know why you'd go with this over the 17 necessarily. I don't know. I could see maybe why they'd want this over the Glock 19X because of that tan color. It's just not a very civil color, if you will. It's not a color that is very common, and it kind of stands out. It kind of, you know, might make the public kind of get a hokey opinion of you. So I can understand them wanting this in black if they're going to go with the 19X. But you know, that's for what it's worth. I don't get it. Also, the front serrations, I've never seen the need for that or trained that in any sort of police duty. So I just think these, you know, this front serration may be kind of a beta test for maybe the Gen 6 coming out. Maybe they're all going to have these front serrations, and this is probably just an answer to some of the complaints they had with adding the scallop back into the Gen 5. So that's my take on it. I don't really see a whole big need or a big purpose for it, or that it changes anything groundbreakingly, but I'm satisfied with this over the 19X. I think this offers some things that I would use better and more frequently than the 19X does. So that's my take on it, guys. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll also give you guys some shooting impressions. I did shoot this. I've put about 50 rounds through it. Don't tell anybody, because I'm supposed to be just shooting my 19, but pretty close, right? One and the same. So is it accurate? That's going to be the question everybody asks. The answer is, how accurate are you? Okay, so this was, I think, about 12 yards, slow fire, just kind of putting some rounds down. But there you go. That's my group with the Glock 45. There's about almost 20 rounds, I think, in this little patch here. So take it for what it's worth. I'm not the best shot in the world, but I do practice a lot with a 19. I don't notice a difference. It points like a 19, it shoots like a 19, it tracks like a 19, it recoils pretty much like a 19. So I don't know. It's a better way to carry more ammunition, but that's pretty much it. I'm not disappointed with the gun, but you know, again, here we go. So probably, you know, winter beater maybe, and summer duty or something like that. Maybe more of a range gun and more of my everyday carry, something Okay, so just some things to think about, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As always, continue to find more videos, branch out. Don't just listen to me, get some other opinions on this if you're on the fence, and continue to practice your craft, because that's what the important thing is, and that's why we're all here, okay? Again, thanks for tuning in. Jay Helmsing. I will see you guys later.